What are you doing here? This is a private closing, Margaret.
The closing table was already set, papers spread, and her cousin's signatures nearly dry. Margaret hadn't been told a thing.
I am here for my vineyard. Did you think I wouldn't find out?
Your vineyard? Grandpa left it to the family. Margaret, you are too sentimental to understand business.
Paul, maybe we should have told her. She's still family.
I was told the sellers had full authority. Is there a dispute?
The vineyard can't be sold without my signature, Daniel. I am a partner in the harvest contract.
That's absurd. That old agreement doesn't give you ownership. You are just a worker.
Daniel's eyes stopped on the signature line. Margaret Delacroix, co-signatory. The date, 15 years ago, renewed every 5 seasons.
If this contract is valid, the buyer's supply agreement ties to you personally. We may need to halt the closing.
As Daniel hesitated over the contract, Margaret's mind raced back to the vineyard where it all began, 15 summers earlier. She was 22, and Grandpa Harold still walked every row, his weathered hands checking the clusters.
Why check the same vines every day, Grandpa?
He held a grape to the light. Each one tells you if the land is healthy, he said. The land only stays healthy if someone listens. That afternoon, he slid a harvest contract across the kitchen table, her name already printed beside his.
A partnership? I don't know anything about contracts.
He pointed to the signature line and waited. She signed, though she didn't yet grasp the weight of that paper. He said, "The vineyard will always need you. This just makes it legal." Then he filed it away and never spoke of it again. Season after season, the contract renewed. Margaret learned to prune, pick, press. The paper gathered dust but never expired. Harold Delacroix didn't forget. He had planted something besides grapes, a legal root that would outlast him. While Margaret held her ground, Paul and Eric had been moving for weeks. A scheme kept hidden from her.
The developer's offer is solid. Once we close, the debts are gone, and we walk with real money.
What about Margaret? She'll find out. That vineyard is her life.
She'll get a check. She's sentimental about dirt, but cash talks.
Paul didn't wait. He dialed the buyer's representative that same evening.
We have full ownership. There are no other partners. Let's move the closing up.
Eric stood nearby, a manila folder trembling in his grip.
We're lying. Grandpa would never have sold.
The cousins walked into the title office the next morning, signed the preliminary agreement, and set the closing date.
2 weeks, and the ink dries. Margaret won't know until the vineyard belongs to someone else.
Margaret was pruning the old vines when her cousins' voices carried through the open office window.
The closing is next Tuesday. Keep Margaret out of it. She'd ruin the deal.
They're selling the vineyard without me.
She crept inside and found the title notice on the desk, the closing date circled in red. Her call to the title office confirmed it. The sale was scheduled for that very afternoon. There was no time for a lawyer. She grabbed the harvest contract from the safe and ran to her truck. She sped through the valley, dust rising behind her, the contract's words echoing in her mind. She pulled up to the attorney's building where the closing was already underway.
They won't take this land. Not today.
She didn't knock. She pushed open the door. Daniel's warning still echoed. The closing had stalled, and Paul's face twisted with panic.
That paper is 15 years old. It means nothing now.
It renews automatically, Paul. I've signed the renewal every 5 years. It's current until 2028.
The contract states the grape supply is exclusive to this partnership. The buyer needs that supply to operate.
She's not a partner. She's a seasonal worker with a piece of paper.
Since Grandpa died, I've managed every harvest, every press, every bottle. Without my consent, this vineyard can't sell a single grape.
Daniel removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. The buyer's deal was unraveling.
I can't proceed today. The buyer's rights depend on the harvest entity, and that entity requires Margaret's participation.
Eric sank into his chair. Paul's jaw tightened, his scheme slipping beyond his control.
Then we'll take this to court. This isn't over, Margaret.
Paul's threat hung in the air, but Margaret didn't flinch. She spread the contract flat and pointed to a clause buried in the fine print.
This harvest agreement isn't just for grapes. Grandpa and I own the Delacroix Vineyards brand together. Without my signature, the brand can't be transferred.
Wait. So, she owns part of the name? Paul? Maybe we can offer her a share of the sale.
We're not paying her a dime. She's twisting a technicality.
It's more than a technicality, Paul. The buyer expects a clean transfer of all operational assets. If the brand is jointly owned, we have a material defect.
You wanted to sell the land underneath me, Paul. But the land is nothing without the brand that sells the wine.
Eric looked at the floor, shame creeping into his expression. He had never read the contract.
Then what do you want, Margaret? To bleed us dry?
I want the vineyard whole. Buy me out of the brand, or I'll buy you out of the land. But I won't be shut out again.
The room fell silent. Daniel began packing his files, but Margaret's eyes stayed locked on her cousins. Before Paul could storm out, the door opened again. A woman in gray entered, silver hair, glasses on a chain, leather folder in hand.
Ms. Delacroix, I have the original trust instruments and the recorded partnership agreement. The entity is valid.
Thank you, Miss Thornton. Paul was just threatening court. Perhaps you can explain the precedents.
In this state, a brand partnership supersedes a simple land transfer. The buyer would inherit massive contingent liability.
Liability. She's a grape farmer, not a corporate partner. This is a sham.
Margaret, is there any way we can just settle this? Pay you something?
My client won't touch this unless the brand is clean. Margaret's signature is a deal breaker.
I'll buy your interest in the raw land. Fair market value, no more. In exchange, you walk away and the vineyard stays whole.
Litigation would tie up the land for years and likely fail. This is the cleanest exit for everyone.
Paul said nothing, but his glare told a story of a man cornered. Eric stared at the table, calculating what little they had left.
Fine. If you want to buy us out, it'll take triple the land value. We're not walking away for pocket change.
The vineyard is worth more than just dirt, Margaret. We need enough to start over.
Triple? I know exactly what that land appraised for last quarter. And I know about your debts.
The buyer formally withdrew the purchase offer 20 minutes ago. You have no other bidder.
You talked to the buyer? You sabotaged us.
I didn't need to. The contract scared them off. Your scheme left you no exit.
We have nothing left. You are leaving us with nothing.
Fair market value is on the table. It's more than zero, which is what you'll get if you litigate.
Paul's hands trembled. The silence stretched, filled only with the shuffle of papers.
Take the offer, Paul. It's the last clean chance you'll get.
Paul's restraint shattered. He lunged forward, finger jabbing the air, years of resentment boiling over.
You think you are the heir. You are just the hired help who got lucky. Grandpa pitied you.
Stop, Paul. Just stop. We ruined it. This was our family's land, and we treated it like a lottery ticket.
Grandpa knew. He saw this moment coming years ago. I kept every harvest going while you borrowed against the land you never worked. I am not the villain here.
The room fell into a thick, painful silence. Eric couldn't meet her eyes. Paul turned away, fists clenched. Margaret stepped into the hallway, pressing her back against the cold wall. The weight of it all finally hit her.
I promised you, Grandpa. I won't break that promise now.
When she returned, Eric had his head on the table, sobbing quietly. Paul stared out the window, a man hollowed out.
I am not here to destroy you, but I won't let you destroy what Grandpa built. The offer stands.
Miss Thornton drew Margaret aside, away from the shattered table and the cousins' bitter silence.
You have two choices, Margaret. Buy them out now or face years of litigation that will drain the winery. Court costs alone could exceed the buyout, and the brand will suffer irreparable damage in the meantime.
Grandpa's voice echoed. The land only stays healthy if someone listens. She was listening now. I know the price, Miss Thornton, but I promised him I'd keep the vineyard whole. I won't let greed break it. Draw up the papers. I'll pay fair value for their shares. Every cent I have, if necessary.
The documentation is ready. We can present the final offer within the hour. They'd be fools to refuse.
Margaret straightened her shirt, touched the silver ring on her finger, and walked back toward the closing room. Paul and Eric hadn't moved. The air was thick with defeat. Margaret laid the new offer on the table.
This is the final number. No tricks. Walk away clean or lose everything in court.
Paul snatched the paper, eyes racing across the number. A cold laugh broke from his throat.
Less than the debt. You are burying us, Margaret. This isn't fair. It's burial money.
It covers the bank, Paul. We'd walk away clean. No lawsuits, no liens, just done.
Done? She's stealing our inheritance. You want to just roll over?
Paul shoved the paper back across the table and stormed out. The door slammed, rattling the shelves.
He doesn't mean he's just. We've never had much except the land. Letting go is hard.
The number won't change, Eric. This is what the land is worth. I won't pay a penny more.
She's not wrong. The lawyer made it clear. We'd end up with nothing. But Paul...
Talk to him. Before you both lose this chance too. The pen is right there.
Eric's hand hovered over the pen. Outside, a car engine revved and faded. Paul was gone. Margaret didn't hesitate. She walked out past the parked car, past the shed, into the rows where Paul stood with his back to the sunset.
You used to help Grandpa prune these vines, Paul. You'd race Eric to the end of the row.
That was before the bank called. Before the second mortgage. I am buried, Margaret. This sale was my only rope.
And you thought carving up the land would save you? He'd have rather seen it burn than be sold to strangers.
He turned away, staring down the rows where the grapes still hung, waiting for a harvest he'd tried to sell.
I know I failed him. I failed everyone. You want the truth? I don't even like wine. I just inherited debt.
Then take the check. Paul, clear your debts, and let the land go to someone who'll bleed for it.
For a long moment, the only sound was the wind in the leaves. Then Paul let out a breath he'd been holding for years.
Fair value. That's your final offer? No tricks?
No tricks. Just the price of a clean slate. It's more than you'll get anywhere else.
Inside the closing room, Eric sat frozen. The offer lay on the table, where Paul had thrown it.
Litigation will cost more than you have. The offer on that paper is your only clean exit.
I never wanted to sell. I love these vines, but I always did what Paul said.
He pressed his palms against his eyes, trying to block out the shame.
Without this land, I am nothing. But I can't fight her. I am just tired.
Then sign. The price is fair. Refusing out of pride will leave you with nothing.
Paul will hate me. But at least the debt will be gone.
The pen is ready. I'll need your signature when you decide.
Eric looked toward the window, where the last daylight bled across the vineyard rows. His brother was out there somewhere.
If Paul agrees, I'll sign. I owe him that. But I won't fight anymore.
The door opened, and Margaret walked back in with Paul behind her, his face a mask of exhaustion.
Where's the pen? Let's get this over with.
He scrawled his name, the pen digging into the paper, then dropped it and walked to the window.
Eric.
This is it. The land is gone. But the weight on my chest, it's lighter.
His hand shook, but he signed. Eric Delacroix, smaller than his brother's rage, but no less present. Then Margaret took the pen, her signature steady, the last Delacroix to sign.
The notarization is complete. The agreement is binding. The vineyard's harvest contract and land now unify under Margaret Delacroix.
No one cheered. The room filled with silence, the weight of the paper heavier than any outburst.
The payment will be processed tomorrow morning. You'll have what you are owed. Then, this chapter is closed.
With the ink still wet, Margaret pulled a cashier's check from her bag, already made out for the full agreed sum.
Here, the money is yours. No delays.
Paul took it, his eyes tracing the numbers. He didn't say thank you. He just nodded once, a bitter jerk of the head, and shoved the check into his breast pocket. Eric's hand trembled as he picked up his copy of the agreement. He looked at Margaret, mouth opening as if to speak.
I am sorry, Margaret, for all of it.
Margaret held his gaze, her expression softening just slightly.
I know, Eric. Take care of yourself.
Paul was already at the door, coat over his arm. He didn't look back. Eric followed, his steps heavy. The door closed behind them with a soft click, leaving Margaret alone with the papers and the silence. Margaret pushed through the screen door onto the farmhouse porch. The cooling dusk wrapped around her shoulders. At the gravel lot, Paul and Eric loaded their car in silence, shadows stretching long behind them.
That's it. The last time I'll see this house.
Eric shut the trunk and looked back. Margaret gave a single nod from the porch. Paul paused at the driver's door, his jaw working as if he might speak. Then he slid inside. The engine turned over, a low growl breaking the evening quiet. The car rolled down the drive, past the old Delacroix sign, and onto the road. Margaret stood motionless, her hand resting on the porch rail.
It's over. The land is mine, but the cost is carved deep.
The taillights shrank, then vanished. Only the vineyard remained under the darkening sky. The porch was empty now. Margaret stepped down and walked slowly into the vineyard rows. Her fingers brushed the clusters, still warm from the sun. The grapes were nearly ready.
Every harvest he was beside her. Now the rows held only his echo.
She pushed open the barn door. The scent of oak barrels and earth filled the dark. On a shelf behind old pruning shears, a dented tin box. Inside, a photograph of Grandpa Harold.
He knew the fight was coming. He left her the weapon she needed.
She carried the picture to the winery office and set it on the windowsill beside the harvest contract. Her thumb traced his face in the yellowed photograph.
I kept my promise, Grandpa.
Outside the window, the first stars blinked over the vineyard she now owned entirely. Weeks later, in the cellar, Margaret held the first bottle of the new vintage. The label read Harold's Legacy. She had printed the labels herself, each one a promise kept. Now she placed them on the bottles with a steady hand. At the vineyard entrance, a small crowd gathered. Workers, friends, a few neighbors. The old sign stood behind a cloth.
This land was his, and it will always be his. Today, we give the name back.
She pulled the cloth away, and the new wooden sign read, Harold's Legacy Vineyard. Applause filled the air. She uncorked a bottle of the new vintage and poured for everyone. Glasses clinked under the spring sun. The vineyard was alive again, new growth pushing through the soil, the name of the man who saved it on every bottle.
He would have loved this day.
A worker raised his glass. To Harold, the echo came back. To Harold, as the sun set, Margaret stood alone at the new sign, tracing the letters with her fingers. The legacy was sealed. Months after the first bottles shipped, a letter arrived with Eric's handwriting. Margaret opened it at the office desk. Margaret, I know I said sorry once, but I need you to know I was wrong from the start. The vineyard was never ours to sell. Grandpa picked you, and I was too weak to see it. I can't undo what we did, but I can finally say the truth.
He never needed my forgiveness. He just needed to say it.
She folded the letter and set it on the windowsill beside Grandpa's photograph.
Paul's name wasn't in the letter. His silence was its own message.
She looked through the window. The road where the car had vanished was empty, the dust long settled.
Maybe one day he'll call, maybe not. Either way, the vineyard isn't waiting anymore.
She poured a glass of the new vintage and raised it slightly. Alone but not lonely, outside, the vines grew. Inside, a quiet seed of peace had finally taken root. The harvest festival brought workers and neighbors, tables lining the gravel lot under the new sign. Margaret climbed onto a crate, a glass of the new vintage catching the late sunlight.
Every bottle from this harvest carries a promise kept. This land is his, and it always will be.
She uncorked a fresh bottle herself and poured for the people who had helped her save it. Glasses clinked, and from the crowd a voice shouted, to the woman who bled for this dirt.
To Harold. He knew the worth of soil and soul.
She raised her glass toward the distant hills, where the sun was sinking low. The celebration continued, laughter and music filling the air, but Margaret quietly slipped away. At the highest ridge, she stopped and looked out over the endless rows, heavy with fruit. The vineyard glowed under a sky of fire. The promise was kept. The land was at peace. On the highest ridge, Margaret knelt and pressed a bottle of Harold's Legacy into the soft soil. The sunset lit the label, the gold lettering catching fire. She rose and let her gaze travel across the endless rows, each vine a testament of love. Her shoulders shook, but a smile broke through tears she didn't bother wiping away.
He didn't just give her land. He gave her something that could never be taken away.
The wind stirred the leaves, a low whisper through the valley. She didn't speak again. The bottle in the earth said everything. The purple sky deepened, and the first stars pierced the dusk. She stayed until the last light faded, rooted in the soil like the vines she had saved. The legacy was no longer a promise. It was the earth beneath her feet. At the edge of the vineyard, a bottle of Harold's Legacy rested on a fence post, catching the last sunlight. The label gleamed, the name a quiet testament to the man who trusted the one they all underestimated. Margaret walked the rows, her silhouette small against the sprawling vines that had witnessed every battle and every harvest. Her hand brushed a cluster of grapes, dark and heavy, ready for the next press. From above, the vineyard spread like an open palm, the rows a map of heritage and grit. The sun sank deeper, bleeding gold into the ridges, and the shadows stretched like memories. The bottle on the post remained, the label facing the road where the car had vanished months ago. She walked on, not looking back. The land held her now, no longer a courtroom but a home. Her face, when she turned it to the dying sun, was calm. The fight was over. She had won. The harvest contract had borne her signature, and now the land itself was signed into her soul.